The gentleman presenting the memento is Mr. Parag Gadre. He is our next presenter. He's going to talk on opportunities in Indian agri and food infrastructure. And he does that, bringing to the podium a wealth of experience on some of the major corporates that India has had. That would include the Ruchi Soya Group, Siemens, Godrej, and the Tatas. He is now with ETG India.
Good evening all. I guess it's a bit scarce audience. But first of all, I would like to thank IPGA, Executive Committee, and I'm part of that committee in which way, and also the Pulses Conclave organizing team for including session on milling specifically. Because that is one aspect which I guess, and I personally, was pursuing this, it is missing. Hopefully, news will spread and there are more millers who will eventually start joining, this kind of conclaves, because there's a lot for all the millers also in it. So when we talk of pulses mill modernization, there are three buckets broadly which I identified. One is, of course, the process-driven efficiency improvement related modernization, which will obviously have inward, outward movement of material as well as the actual conversion stages where there is automation possible. Second bucket could be that of forward integration, and there are various ways of doing it. One of the the most happening buzzword right now is pea protein extraction and applications thereof. So can there be some opportunities integrated with dal mills in that particular zone? And third could be lateral opportunities. So it can have, say, solar panel, replacing the entire fossil fuel consumption of electricity, right? So those are some of the opportunities. Maybe quickly we can run through. Yeah, I mean, just to give a broad overview of milling industry, pulses milling industry in India. I think Mr. Chandrasekhar also referred to around 6,000 odd mills in India. We have around 7,500 mills which are registered with FSSAI. They have a license. And the average size of a small mill will be around 70 tons per day. So they are really small scale units in that sense. Mid-size could be anywhere between 100 to 200. So we can say average 150 tons per day. So very, very fragmented industry, right? And I'm not even counting standalone filter, cleaning, sieving facilities here, gravity separators and all. And this still stands the fourth largest food processing, industry after edible oil, rice and wheat, processing. Of course, I mean, compared to these rice, wheat or edible oil, we need to rather qualify pulses milling as a more semi-organized or so to say an organized sector. It is not entirely automated for that matter. So when we talk of any mill modernization, there are certain challenges which we need to keep in mind. At the same time, some of the factors we need to consider. Quite a few regional millers, and we have one of the mills in Vasad, which is near Baroda in Gujarat. And the observation is, and even this applies to some parts of MP and Maharashtra also, millers operate cyclically. So in monsoon, some of the mills, they do not really operate. There are yield-related losses. What here I mean by yield is outturn ratios, right? And those are, also dependent on a lot of variability which we receive in the raw material and the limitations of the equipments, to cope up with that variability. Skilled and technically equipped manpower, or the lack of it, is one of the major challenges what, all millers, including us, I mean, ETG, we are the largest miller in the country, but we also face that, dearth of skilled manpower. Eventually, all these factors they result in a poor quality of finished goods, and that is reaching consumers in the market. And since the basic infrastructure is so weak, the ability to build some of the, as I said, forward integration for better value-added products, there are a lot of limitations there. So when we consider any modernization, obviously, I mean, it has to be profitable, right? It has to eventually reduce, the cost volatility for the miller as well as price volatility for the market. And that is a, it's a bedrock for any decision to be made for modernization. There is another aspect of skill building of the millers, because when we see there is a churn happening, there are millers will have to come on board and we have to train them. They have to get trained on the job. We do not, so it's ITI equivalent, right? Any automobile industry, they have a bench strength of ITIs available. I don't think pulses milling sector can say that about our sector. All right. So some of the buckets where the modernization opportunities are possible, and later on I have tried to quantify in terms of what is the commercial impact on any miller when we try and address these in terms of implementation. So storage is one of the major aspects, and just now we saw there are a lot of schemes available in terms of building silos, silo-based storages. There are a lot of service providers available who can provide cluster-based silos. So this will also apply to, if you look at the last column, to the ETG storage as well, where there could be a cold storage facility which can be utilized with a cluster of mills. For example, Akola, in Maharashtra, where MIDC, there is a lot of a cluster of mills available, and this kind of facilities can be actually, they can actually work very well, provided there is some kind of organization or a body which organizes these things for the millers. In terms of actual operation, of course, integrated SCADA-based system, I mean, that actually, it reduces the manual intervention. All processes are, well parameterized. So typically, because of variability in the raw material, there are a lot of interventions, manual interventions in terms of, rolls and stone angles, hulling passes and all. Maybe SCADA can actually help in minimizing those manual interventions, and some of the, large-scale mills, they have these interventions already operative. Intermediate storages. So when you design the bins, there's a merit in keeping interchangeability, because one of the major aspects over the last 2-3 years, what we millers we have observed is tender supplies, right? I mean, government has got into a direct FG tender supplies. And there are very, very specific requirements state-wise, and those, to meeting those specifications is a challenge for the miller, because many times you have to actually switch on to a particular product variety, and for that we have to, forego the existing market. So it is better to have some kind of, bin arrangement where, interchangeability of the material can be exercised. Dryers. In areas like Gujarat, almost 4 to 5 months. I mean, these are monsoon periods where dal mills don't really operate because they do not have, dryer facility, automated dryers facility. Many times they use drying beds, which are obviously not available, concrete large spaces, which are not available during monsoon period. So vertical stack dryers maybe, can be helpful, and there are a lot of companies, those who are now providing, low-cost drying solutions as well. That will, of course, help not only, we can keep mills running during monsoon, the labor availability also can be streamlined, because many times, because of lack of availability of the, job, laborers, they go to some other industry, and again, to get them back is a challenge. FG storage, as I said, cold storage facilities, and there are quite a few schemes available now, but there is a lack of knowledge regarding those schemes. I think Ashish tried to show a few things from there. So I think there are a lot of opportunities there as well. Forward integration, retail downsizing of the packages, all those are finished goods, FG-related opportunities which we millers can leverage. So this is just an attempt. I'll not go into details because there's a time crunch. So a lot of equipments now available, and broadly speaking, if any miller, any small scale miller of 70 tons per day kind of a capacity, they want to upgrade their equipments, broad cost, will be around 3 CR or 3 crores in INR terms, maybe $400,000. So that is a one-time investment which can actually give returns over 10 years with upgraded facilities. All right, so this is another opportunity. So far we saw, opportunity within the conversion value chain, and this is more of a forward integration. Quite a few multinationals, they have already started, setting up these plants for protein, pea protein extraction abroad, especially in North America, and I think Vijayji from AgroCorp, he also mentioned Singapore, Malaysia, that also is, started becoming hub for these products. So there is one emerging trend. There are a lot of startups. There are almost 100 startups in India, those who are now, having a requirement, very, very small size requirement of pea protein, right? And they do not really find suppliers. So they obviously have to import. So this is where some kind of a prototype plants of pea protein can become a very good forward integration for the miller. It may not be, the world-class facilities which require several $1 million of investments, but these are very, very small. So I'll not get into technicalities of it. I think tomorrow we are also going to have pea protein, specific sessions. So I'm sure they will spend some more time in terms of technicalities. But if we analyze the cost, and there is a laundry list of equipments which will go, of course, it is obviously not as easy as, refurbishing the equipments, in a typical pulses plant. It will require some kind of expertise, the person who knows pea protein extraction, and solubility science. So we require that kind of a consultant, to help this out. But the overall, for any 20-ton intake of pea protein, flour required for pea protein, and around half a ton to 1 ton per day kind of output, we typically call it a prototype plants. So that can become a very good opportunity, and frankly, the startups are willing to pay premium. I mean, they are backed by very good finances, and they are willing to pay premium if some kind of a domestically, locally available, products are, provided and supplied by these millers. So this is another opportunity for sure. And last but not the least, one thing which, and we realize, I mean, we have a plant at Khopoli as well, which is 80 kilometers from here. Quite a few states, they offer, net metering of, provided we put, solar power facilities. And that is what we decided to go with. And the example which I'm going to show is from our own plant itself. So typical 1 megawatt kind of a solar panel-based power generation. There are various companies, those who can provide power purchase agreement where there is no direct capital investment by a respective, miller, right? For a small mill, I think it's a big, big plus. So there will be some bank guarantees, obviously, which they will take, and they will offer power at almost, I mean, depending on what are the rates going on in various states. So in Maharashtra, in respective MIDCs, the rate could be from anywhere from 7 rupee 50 paise to 9 rupee 50 paise per unit of typical electricity from the grid, right? This power purchase agreement comes at, say, 4 rupee 50 paise per unit. And 50% of, any plant's electricity, captive consumption requirement can be fulfilled by solar plant. You can imagine the kind of saving it can deliver. And even if it is not consumed, you can always net meter it out, to the grid. And that much deduction in the units which government grid is going to charge you, that also can result in the power saving. So this is what we are trying to implement at one of our mills. So these are typical rooftops which are available where all these kind of facilities can be installed, and as of now it's work in progress. Hopefully by new financial year it will be operative. So this is big opportunity where we can actually, it's a cost saving as well as eventually one can actually claim some carbon credits. I mean, there is a separate formula and working. I will not get into those details at this juncture, but there is a big opportunity for any local miller who is having 70 to 100 ton kind of a plant is a typical plant. I mean, one of the plants where we're implementing it is 150 ton, or rather 220 tons per day intake kind of a plant. So solar park generation itself can become a very good opportunity. Now, how all these things, can come together, and that is one big challenge, and we deliberated amongst IPGA team members and executive committee members, and this is a proposal stage where there could be a formation of a governing body or an institute which can be anchored by IPGA, and there will be participation from processing units like us, like ETG. There will be dal mill association, because there are several local regionalized dal mill associations, right? And we can have few representations from each state. Of course, we need a competent lab, and it can be under, supervision of any of the central ministries, typically say food processing or even DOCA for that matter, because that is one of the major ministry influencing pulses milling as an operation for that matter. The key deliverables in that sense, guide local regional mills to avail. So first of all, to educate, make them acknowledge, these are the available opportunities, and how to avail various benefits which are provided by multiple government bodies. We had one very short session of Invest India today, and they themselves are providing so many tools and facilities, which I doubt whether even 10% are getting utilized in the pulses sector. Work with, of course, government bodies for various loans and subsidies. Invest India could be one of the routes. Trading, training and auditing, skill imparting and certifying. I mean, these are some of the deliverables this body can take up, where, we can train millers, make them aware in terms of technology, how to use equipments, at the same time, how to comply with certain, global standards, like even ISO 45000, which is OSHA's standard food safety standards and all. So there could be a battery of experts who can associate with this body, and they can impart those training. So there could be, ecosystem created which facilitates milling modernization, including training and certification. Then there could be, class 1, class 2 miller. There could be grading of mills, basis which subsidies or, loan and subsidized loans can be passed on. So those are some of the opportunities, with support of Bimalji and IPG Executive Committee. Very soon we will be launching this institute going forward. Hopefully this will also trigger, association of regional and local millers, which is critical, because whether we trade, through imports or trade through domestic procurement, 80% of the cargo lands in mills, right? And unless and until we upgrade that ecosystem, the overall, value return will not come. So this is it from my side on mill modernization.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Gadre.
much.
That was wonderful. May I please request Mr. Satish Upadhyay to please step up on stage, present Mr. Gadre with a memento. Before I call on the next